Good morning, everybody. It is March 8th, and we are starting our week 8 of second semester of NTI this week. Okay. So, going to units real quick. We're continuing on with Unit 6 this week. This is actually going to be our last week with Unit 6. Okay. So, we have two supporting questions left. We ended with Unit 3 last week. In this front-loading video that I'm talking in now, we're going to talk about supporting question number 4 super quickly. Okay, how did the Double V campaign kind of connect to the civil rights movement? All right, so we'll talk about that in this video. There'll be a question or two in your Google form with this, but that's all we're going to get into with this supporting question. And then when we meet for class on either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on what day you have class, we're going to talk about supporting question number 5 of how did fear of communism impact the U.S. Okay, specifically talking about the expansion policy and willingness to get involved in wars. Okay, so going to classwork for this week, we're going to have a front loading video again where we're talking about supporting question number 4. Then Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day you have class, we will talk about fear of communism assignment, which is our last supporting question of this unit. Then, of course, since we're done with our supporting questions, we have a exam this week. Okay, so you all are going to have your Unit 6 exam, which I'll post either Thursday or Friday for you, depending on what day you have class. Okay, so that's all for this week. I'm going to talk about the Double V campaign real quick. And then after that, just make sure you come to class this week. So, Double V campaign. So, we talked about this last week when we were talking about divisions during this time. We talked about how there was a huge divide in the U.S. soldiers in World War II. So African American soldiers were not getting treated uh, equally at all compared to white soldiers. Okay, they even mentioned that in these U.S. camps we had German prisoners, and these German prisoners were getting treated better than these African American soldiers who are literally risking their lives for the U.S. Okay, so with this Double V campaign, it was started in 1942 by the Pittsburgh Courier Journal, which is a black newspaper, and later taken up by other newspapers around the country. Okay, and at that time, newspapers were the primary form of media, and their influence and power was as much kind of as Twitter today. So if you think of like just scrolling through Twitter, that's where you get all your news and stuff. That's kind of how the Double V came, or this newspaper was during this time. So when they had the Double V campaign on these newspapers, everybody knew about it. Okay. And they stressed on these newspapers that they, African American people, needed to achieve victory against hate and violence, not only in the rest of the world, but also right at home. Okay. So they're saying there needs to stop being this divide. So obviously, over at war, there's a divide and that needs to stop. But also at home, at our home front in the U.S., there needs to stop being this divide. Okay. And this was an early stage of the civil rights movement that eventually emerged about 10, 20 years later in the 1950s and 60s. Okay. So this was kind of a step in the direction of the civil rights movement, and again, which kind of connects to the Black Lives Matter movement that we are still kind of, um, talking about today as well. So all of this connects, and it's just trying to get equal rights for African Americans. Okay, this Double V campaign. All right. So that's it. That's all we're going to talk about with the Double V campaign for supporting question number 4. And then, like I said, we will do our supporting question number 5 assignment this week and then have our exam. All right, guys. Going to the home, here's our class schedule if you need help knowing when to log in. If there's any other question, guys, reach out to me. If not, I will see you all in class this week. Have a good week, and I'll see y'all later, guys.